Buyers are facing a bit of an ironic challenge right now. Conditions are favorable for them. There's plenty of listings to look at, lots of options, prices have softened, and in most cases, no specific timeline where they need to make a decision. And what is the problem that they're facing? That problem is indecision, difficulty moving forward. Now, a lot of people look at this as a bit of a champagne problem where finally buyers have, most of the things that they wanted, and now they're having a hard time pulling a trigger and making a decision. Now, I look at this in a different way. I look at this as a genuine problem. This is really just human nature at play. When us humans, myself included, obviously, have conditions where we're trying to make a decision and we have lots of options and no specific timeline to make the final call, we have a really hard time moving forward. So if you're a buyer out there right now, you are going to be faced with this problem and it's going to be a challenge. So I thought what would be helpful is I'm going to share some common themes that I've seen from some buyers this year that have been very successful in making a purchase and have made decisions, fairly quickly. So let's dive into what those are. The first thing I'm going to talk about that's been common amongst buyers I've seen be successful this year in making decisions is the most important one. And everything I'm going to say beyond this is going to come back and refer to this first point. So this one's really critical. And it is that once the buyer made a decision that they're going to get out there and purchase, we had our initial call, they've got their pre-approval, like essentially a buyer who could put an offer in on a property tomorrow if they found one they liked. Once they made that decision, they went out and saw a high volume of properties in a very short period of time. So within a week or two, they saw like just a ton of properties. Tuesday night we went out and saw 2 or 3. Wednesday night we went out and saw 3. Thursday night we were out looking at places. Saturday and Sunday we were doing, showings and open houses. And after that first week or two where they made that decision to make a purchase, they saw a high volume of properties. Now, this helps decision making in a number of ways. One is, us human beings, when we invest in anything, we typically want a return on that investment. So they up front made an investment, they put time in, they sacrificed doing other things, they made real estate a focus. So all of a sudden they put a lot of time, energy into their real estate search in a short period of time. Now that's going to help them, continue to move forward as they're going to want a return for the effort that they put in. So this is the first point. The second part of why seeing a high volume of properties initially is important is it's also going to really clarify whether what you initially thought you wanted is true or not. So for example, you may discover after seeing a number of places that, the neighborhood we want to live in within the budget criteria that we have, we can't really get everything we want. So maybe we need to look at a different neighborhood where we can get all the boxes checked. And if the house is more important than the neighborhood, they might make that decision. Or it might just clarify what you thought you wanted was what you wanted. So it just gives you clarity on decision making. So when you do see a property, you're gonna know it's the one for you. As opposed to, if you're kind of seeing one every couple weeks, a few a month, you just never really get that momentum started. Now, the second thing is that I noticed is when I had an initial onboarding call, the buyers, you could tell, had put a lot of thought into what they at least assumed they would want in a property. Now, a big part of discussions with your realtor initially is going to be your realtor or myself helping you, talk through that and going through the pros and cons and giving you things to think about. So it's not like you got to be fully prepared and know everything for that call. I just found that it seemed like they had been very thoughtful about what was important to them before making a decision to start the process. So they had at least a framework and a good base to work from, and then we could rejig it along the way. Now, another thing that I noticed, and this one's going to be really hard to define because it's a little non-specific or up for interpretation, but I found they had a really good ability to look at the big picture. So they didn't get caught up in little things along the way that would derail them from making a decision. So an example of that might be let's say, well, to set the stage, when you go out there and purchase real estate, there are so many little things that are going to come up. It's absolutely unbelievable. So within that, there's going to be things that matter, that are going to make a difference for you long-term, things that you need to win on. And then there's going to be just some little things that overall long-term may or may not affect you as a buyer. So let's say, for example, the seller came along and wanted to change a little term in the contract that was, let's say annoying, but long-term didn't make a big difference to you. So I saw those buyers would be like, you know what, that's fine. Let's just agree to it. Well, you know, we want the place. This doesn't really affect me. So like, let's just move forward, as opposed to getting frustrated, getting emotional, or, you know, getting in a fight over that one little thing. They, again, saw the big picture. Or going back to what I said earlier about seeing like a high volume of properties and having that clarity. When, let's say we went into a house that, you know, had the perfect floor plan for them, but, you know, they had weird paint colors and the furniture looked weird. They didn't get caught up in those little things. It was just like, we can repaint, you know, we'll put better furniture in, but the space really works for us. So they had the clarity to have that big picture thinking and to look for what is the long-term win here. So overall, these are a couple things that I think could help you make some decisions out there, because you are going to be faced with a high volume of properties to look at that could be suitable and not a lot of time. So you're going to need some things that are going to help you move through that process. And I hope these have been helpful. For me specifically, I really love trying to understand when a market changes, how does that affect the psychology of the buyer and how does that affect the psychology of the seller? Because I think that's the easiest way to go, have a simple negotiation and really understand how the market is going to react. So if you like these subjects as well, I'd love to hear from you. Would love to share my perspective, hear your perspective as well. So give me a call, send me a DM. My information is all below, and I look forward to hearing from you.